We have more in-depth coverage now of the papal transition. Father Joseph Escobar from the Our Lady of the Rosary Church joining us now. Good morning once again to you.
Good morning, Patrick.
A papal expert.
Yes.
Signing autographs in supermarkets now. You're on TV so much.
They've recognized me in the bank, the post office. It's been quite interesting.
All right, what is your initial thoughts on this new pope?
I'm delighted. I'm especially delighted that it wasn't someone who was considered a front runner, as they say.
I want to ask you about when you saw him emerge on that balcony. To me, it looked like he was like, what did I just get myself into?
That's exactly how I read it. He just stood there almost motionless, and then began to raise his right hand in a little wave, and but then he warmed up and a very simple greeting, buonasera, good evening. You know, I am your bishop, I am here with you, and it was very warm and inviting.
But what a stark contrast to Pope Benedict, who came out and, you know, was like raising the roof. He was like waving and almost jumping up and down up on that balcony back in 2005.
Well, I think he knew what was coming towards him when he went into the conclave. But like I said, Cardinal Bergoglio, now Pope Francis, wasn't mentioned as a front runner. So it was quite a surprise. I think a lot of people went, who? After they heard the name. And then, of course, they welcomed him joyfully, but it was very interesting. All
right, let's talk about his background. He's a no-frills Pope, it seems.
Exactly.
And you were talking about even his appearance yesterday and the way that he was transported around after being named Pope was completely different than previous popes, right?
Right. He didn't come out with the red mozzetta, the shoulder cape. And then in an act of real profound humility, he bowed and asked for the people's prayers and blessing before he gave his first apostolic blessing.
Right.
And then he forwent using the papal limousine and rode with the cardinals in the van as he had done the previous days back to the hotel where they were staying. So it was very interesting, his simplicity.
So how do you think that will trickle down as, you know, as the new leader of the Catholic Church? I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm sure that he wants to do, but just your initial reaction as to what his effect will be, you know, initially on the church.
I think in many ways he's going to really be another John Paul, in the sense that John the 23rd was a very pastoral man, like your grandfather. He was warm and inviting. Paul VI had that keen intellect. So I think he's really going to be a combination of the two and be able to set a tone that the church is welcoming to everyone. And he's a man of the people. He even, as the cardinal in Argentina, rode the public transportation and would visit the slums. I mean, he's a man who knows his people. Told
people not to come to celebrate with him, save your money and give it to the poor instead of spending it on coming to celebrate this situation. That tells you a lot about the man,
right? It does. It does.
Now, I want to ask you about the age of the Pope. People were saying to me, do you think that they do this on purpose so they can you know, bring in a new pope every once in a while? In other words, instead of having a 55-year-old pope, you have a 76-year-old pope who has one lung. We were talking about in the newsroom earlier that from a lung infection when he was a teenager. Right. So the theory behind electing an older pope as opposed to a younger one, is there one?
I mean, in some ways, when Blessed Pope John Paul II was elected, he was 58.
Right.
And his papacy lasted 26 years, which was a long papacy. His Holiness Benedict XVI was 78 when he was elected and served for 8 years. I think there's a little concern about the age, but I think, again, as I said before, it's a discernment process, and they discern who's best for the church at this time. And certainly Pope Francis seems to have been the man they chose.
Well, thanks so much for your expertise.
You're very welcome,
over the last
Patrick.
couple of
pleasure.
weeks. And, you know, I don't hope we do this again very soon, but I sort of do. That means we get
to
hang out with you again here on the news maybe
thank you very
in
much.
A couple of years. All right. Thanks so much, Father, for coming in. For more coverage on the papal transition, just head over to our website, foxprovidence.com.